finish the loaded gun. Because you're not gonna make it.
Pull a gun out and fucking shoot yourself. All right. Okay. Well, last time we spoke, we talked about the specials of Series 14, which are, I think, like 4, not technically part of the season. Maybe the Goblin one. You like? Yeah, we did one just on that. It's like 2 fucking hours long. It's insane. We're crazy. We're not. We did.
I'm a fly.
So we're back. We finished season 14. I think it finished coming out in April or something. So as always, we're like 10 months. I don't know, something like that. I didn't pay attention. I really didn't fucking give a shit. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I just don't know.
I just don't know. I don't know how we want to structure this. I suppose just go through episodes and then overall at the end. It's probably easiest. I don't know if I have a lot to say for most of these episodes, so it probably won't be terribly long either. Well, we talked about the Goblin one, which is what, Church on Ruby Road or whatever it's called. That's the first Ruby one, where he's in the club and he's got a kill. So let's just go ahead and jump into the proper first episode of the season, which in 14 in true Doctor Who fashion starts off with the worst fucking thing you've ever seen in your life. The first episode is Space Babies. This is an episode written by Davies, and it seems like his over the time he's stepped away from Doctor Who, it seems like his fetish has shifted from fat people to children. So that's the new Davies.
It kind of goes a lot of places. Really, his taste knows no bounds.
He's a cultured man sexually. So yeah, this episode, I think, if the Goblin episode at the start did not already set us up on the tone and trajectory of this new Who, this Disney Who, then this is the episode that would make that abundantly clear. We follow a spaceship or a space station, operated entirely by babies that matured fast for some reason. They explain it, but who cares?
It was like an experiment that makes them smarter.
There's one woman left over. All the adults left the children behind. And yeah, their nanny's on board, who we think at first is an AI, and then it's just some lady in like a cupboard pushing buttons.
There's a bogey monster.
And then there's a monster made out of boogers. And they slime boogers all over Ruby. That's another Davies
that was a pretty classic Davies moment.
Yeah. I don't know. Take it away.
I think my main and overarching theme to extrapolate from this episode is that this episode's about us, because it's a bunch of babies, and so the Doctor and Ruby they really dumb it down and coddle, and because they're babies. But it's like, really, I think this is the perfect analogy for the audience, what they expect people, what they expect, the caliber of episode they expect to be digested by the average viewer now.
Yes.
In this new Disney Who, which is that the audience are a bunch of stupid little babies.
I think that was something that we both kind of picked up on almost immediately, was this subtext of the episode of, you choose to start your new season of a new era of the show, not just a new Doctor or a new showrunner, like a full new era, with an episode that is explaining things to babies.
Before, you could describe a lot of Davies plots, certainly as juvenile.
No, absolutely.
Now we've crossed into infantile.
Yeah.
At least
digress.
We spoke on this before. We could definitely speak on this at the end for just the overall thing, but we've we've learned that despite the juvenility of the original Davies works, it has the benefit of the era for its charm to overlook that that juvenile essence, and this does not.
And it's a much, like you said, we'll get to this I suppose later, but it's a much grander problem than just that. Because if you look back at classic Davies, series 1 through 4 there, like you said, there are a lot of juvenile, even if we're going to use the same words, infantile moments, whatever, fart jokes,
adipose.
The
I mean, this is Moffat, but the James Corden episodes.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think the benefit of those is that the youthfulness and the juvenility of it is meant for fun, and it plays into the adventure and the strangeness and the bizarreness and just put simply the fun of the world. It is big quotes fun, right? And the difference here is that we have that leftover. I think we talked about this in, God, I don't know, one of the Chibnall seasons, or all the fucking Chibnall seasons. There was that shift in network television, and especially in Doctor Who, where the world became hyper-polarized and hyper-politicized overtly, as opposed to the subtextual politicization. We have pointed in the past to like 2016, kind of flaming those more overt political stories. And now we could point to like, well, COVID has exacerbated that even more, whatever. The point being that it's no longer for the point of fun. Now we're doing juvenility to preach to babies about something.
Spoon feeding.
Yeah, exactly. It's not the good thing about old Doctor Who, and this is true for any successful kind of television serial that steps out of the bounds of just being goofy television, is its balance of entertainment and thematic weight, or like artistic weight. And I think it has moved fully into entertainment because the themes are no longer genuine, and the themes are no longer felt by the writers other than just propagandization, I guess, or agendization. And that's even true when there's no overt agenda. A lot of these episodes are completely devoid of any meaning. Like they're so superficially meaningless.
Yeah. I think we'll get to it in the season finale, but this season finale, I feel, was literally nothing but hollow platitudes.
Yes.
The theme of the finale was absolutely nothing except just these tired phrases. It meant nothing. But we'll get to that.
Yeah, we've gotten to the point where it's parodying itself, and in doing so, it has lost all of its essence, and so this juvenile tone comes off as just insufferable because there's no weight behind it. There's not even an enjoyment behind it. It's just the artifice of the product. It's just whatever is fucking left over.
I'm reading some of the descriptions from the episode.
Do we have anything to say about this episode?
I say we speed run it because I'm completely. We just finished.
We have just finished the last 2 episodes.
Oh, it's rough.
I'll just read the notes. We can move on. There's probably other episodes we have more to talk about. Davies Come is the first. Because he's a sicko, and this is a fetish celebration for him. This is a good one. Kids' Choice Awards. Booger Lives Matter.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's another slight theme I might want to touch on this episode, which I mean has been done before with the show, but it's just I think it's a more subtle look into the hearts and minds of the people behind the show at its current state. Is the scary booger monster in the bottom of the station that's scaring all the babies is a baby itself, and it has its own respect and dignity as a life form, and didn't deserve to die.
Yeah.
And I mean that's not something that hasn't been covered before.
He was scared.
Exactly. That's one of the doctor's catchphrases, even though he only said it once. But it's one of our catchphrases we attribute to him. In that the ugly is the beautiful, and it deserves a second chance, or don't judge it by its cover, despite it being a hideous, disgusting monster. And that's kind of what I think is the hidden message behind this show and a lot of shows now is everything's just ugly.
And it's certainly true for this season, that kind of like egalitarian sanctity of life, but also what you're saying, because if we look back, and I know you're not going to fucking remember these, when we look back at the specials of this season, like the Star Beast, the first one, we had the thing from the Doctor Who comics. What is it called? The Mew or whatever, the Mewing.
Okay.
And it was that the outward appearance was cute, Star Warsy, and then it was
subversion of expectations.
Exactly, but it's that same idea of like, oh, you judged it on the cuteness. It's the inverse of the idea you bring up.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
So yeah, I do think that is
which is nothing new, but I guess I'm speaking about it on more of
like a meta-analysis.
A meta-analysis of it, because I find a lot of these people ugly.
Yeah, like Davies.
Yeah.
Fat and gross.
Yeah, any more notes?
I have three more. Okay. Three more for you. What does the S stand for? Which is not even referential to the show at all.
It is not.
Completely outside in reference. Sigma ship, whatever that means. And gone!
Oh yeah, we got a great line read from the new Doctor.
Maybe his best in the season.
Probably. He's... Was that at the beginning or the end?
I don't.
That must have been the beginning. I don't know. I mean, you put it at the end, but I swear it was before they leave.
I think it was when they were talking about the parents.
No, the Doctor said gone. He was talking about Gallifrey. Talking about his people. She asked at the beginning.
That's right.
And I don't know if it was at the beginning or the end. They were just talking about where they were going to go.
Yeah, I think she asked at the beginning and then kind of elaborates on it.
Yeah, she's just like, and where she's going on a tirade. She's like bringing up a lot of different things, and she brings up like, and what about you? Where you're from? Can we see?
Yeah, where is it?
She's like, and he's like, no, we can't. What happened to him?
Come on!
He just pelts it out bottom.
He's a good screamer.
Yeah.
This shooty Gatwa.
Yeah, we'll get more into it, but yeah, there's a point to be made about the fact that he certainly has acting ability,
right?
But we think it's mismanaged.
Yeah. Space Babies is a 2 out of 10 for me.
Yeah.
This is an atrocious episode that should not be watched, and should probably put Davies on some like sexual deviant list, if we're being honest.
Well, I mean, they were just babies, but yeah.
You don't understand. You don't understand the hatred I have for this. Our second, or I suppose third, if you count the Goblin.
Hold on, I gotta read something.
Please. Yeah,
I don't know. It just tickled me. In 1925, a music teacher shows his student the tritone, or the devil's chord, which summons a being called Maestro, who kills the teacher by consuming the music from his heart.
That is how this
is Doctor Who.
Yeah. So perfect segue into episode 3 here. The devil's chord, which you summed up our opening perfectly. The only thing you forgot to mention is the first usage of Davies being a stupid elderly man. Where he goes, oh, my name's Harry Harbinger.
It's in the last episode.
No, that's in this one. That's the kid's name at the music teacher.
Oh my God!
He does it twice. This is a double occurrence on Davies.
Did he actually?
He did.
The kid
Yes.
Oh, you're right. I remember now. No way. He just does it again at the end. This guy needs to be fucking stopped.
That's what I'm saying.
This guy is such a piece of shit. I really dislike Davies after seeing this display. I don't know if he's fucking senile
He's probably got Alzheimer's. Yeah. So yeah, that's the intro to this episode, and this consuming of the music heart of this random fucking guy. And leads to the essential death of music onwards.
The incarnation of the god of music, Maestro, I suppose. Who's also,
God in quotes, yeah.
Who's apparently, I guess, malevolent because they want to steal all the music from the world, and that, of course, kills everyone because we can't live without music. And which, I mean, I think is an interesting thought, at least.
It's worth exploring. Probably worth exploring a better fashion.
Yeah. Thought it was brave. It was brave of Davies to cast a drag queen as the villain. Was interesting, but I suppose the modern sentiment is it would be less inclusive if you can't cast diverse people as villains.
Yeah, and I think the theatrics of Maestro lend well to the characterization.
Yeah, they did a fine job because I mean they're playing this eccentric psycho.
Exactly. And the god of music would be someone who is theatric. Probably.
We get the Beatles.
We do. Ruby wants to go see the Beatles at Abbey Road Studios. In probably one of my maybe my favorite scene this season. They go in to see the Beatles recording, and they're playing like just the G chord over and over. Like, there was a dog, he was on a log, and I went, "What's wrong? This is the Beatles.
This is just the actual Beatles.
This is just the Beatles recording. What's wrong?" But yeah, they figure out what's going on. Maestro shows up and chases them around after Ruby plays the piano and re-summons music into people's hearts. And then the doctor
some random old lady killed.
Uses a flashlight that stops hearing from existing. But then there's a magic tuning fork
that Maestro puts in a puddle and
vibrates water and
sound comes back.
Brings it back and turns the flashlight off.
And they are saved by the Beatles.
Yeah, at the end the doctor's getting like stuffed into a timpani, and Ruby's being
she's
like
just
in
being
a cello or something. I
thought she was just suspended by the Maestro's music.
And then Paul McCartney and John Lennon play the good note and seal Maestro. This is the first thing I'm gonna do is make a pointless semantic argument against this episode, which is I hate when people say note when they mean chord, because a chord is made of notes. You can't be like, oh, I love that. Play that note, and then you play like 10 notes at once. That's not a note. That's a chord.
Well, to be fair,
the episode's name is
Paul and John, right?
Yeah.
What's their names?
that would be
McCartney, John Lennon. Yeah, them. Those guys. They did only literally play one note.
Yeah.
Because they only know how to play one.
They only know how to know. This is also just such a fucking weird idea. Like, why did some random piano teacher playing a tritone, something that is at least 1900s onwards pretty ubiquitous in pieces of music? It shows up a lot. I mean, like Tortini's using it. Fucking, I don't know. When did that come out? 1800s. Why suddenly did that summon the evil god?
Because Harry Arbinger.
Oh, right.
Because of Harry Arbinger. No, this is a pervasive theme for this season as well, that we sort of just question as to why at all, happens, or at least in this manner, that the theme of we've gone full sort of fairy tale, nonsensical logic. They sort of ease you in, well, not really ease, but they sort of throw you into it in the specials, the 60th special with Neil Patrick Harris and Toymaker, right? So we're just that's the show now. The Doctor just is a god as well.
Fights God. What's that?
Right. Well, I think it was. This might have actually been early at the beginning of the first episode, the babies, the space babies. He takes Ruby to the prehistoric age.
Right. And turns her into a fucking lizard.
Well, she steps on a butterfly, haha, and then she like suddenly looks like this insectoid humanoid.
Yeah.
And the doctor just picks up the butterfly, breathes, and it heals it. Yeah, like, okay. It just, it actually, it does kind of make me sick because it's just like this, it's a complete character assassination. It's a universe assassination to just what anything. It's like sci-fi, this show has always been fantastical, of course, but it made an attempt to lend itself to possibility and like
and we'll get into it. I explain this. It kind of betrays what has largely been the thesis statement of Doctor Who, which is, and we'll get back to this, I'm sure, because this is a huge point. But the thesis statement of like everything in the universe is natural. It is like scientific. It's explainable.
We've completely abandoned that.
Right. And
I've got nothing else.
Well, speaking of that, there's also the kind of again, to look more at the meta-analysis of the show as a whole. This is reflected in a lot of the choices in the production as well. For instance, this episode, Devil's Cord, ends with a musical number.
Oh yeah,
which is kind of the second time we get.
We started breaking the wall. Yeah, the fourth wall.
We get one more at the very end, and it's like a fine musical number, whatever. But it certainly doesn't belong in here.
Yeah, it's like there are ways I feel they could do the things they want to do stylistically or artistically, and still within the confines of the old Doctor Who premise of this fantastical, seemingly supernatural phenomena that is still explainable. It's natural. It's just science or things beyond our understanding, rather than just not even a guise to that front.
Right. Yeah. Complete abandonment. That's probably all we have for this one, huh?
Yeah. Like they did that show at the end of season 1, the second to last episode.
Right.
That game show on the satellite or the station. Yeah. It ended up being the Daleks, but like the game show that killed people and stuff. I don't know. I'm sure they started with the harebrained idea. These freaking people in BBC. What if we did a game show? That's deadly. What a top-notch idea. Yeah. So just do that with a freaking musical number. I don't care. But instead they just completely are just like, we're just going to put this on because we want to. We're not going to try to actually form a show around it. It doesn't matter. The characters don't matter. They're just skin suits for this show.
Puppets.
This so-called entertainment.
And, that also demonstrates that lack of sanctity to the thesis of the show previously, because there is no in-universe explanation for that, because it doesn't matter anymore, right? The scientific, the natural, the explainable, it doesn't matter anymore.
They finished the Maestro's the Devil's Court episode by walking back onto
Abbey Road
on the crosswalk.
Ruby Road.
The famous Beatles crosswalk, and as they cross the painted lines, they light up like piano keys, and there's notes hanging above their heads, and they just look and think, oh, look at that, that's wonderful, and then they go into the TARDIS, and it's like, but that, what?
Yeah, why? Yeah.
You lose my interest when you don't care. If you didn't care, why should I care? If you didn't care enough to and I'm starting to lose it. So
and maybe this goes to the point you brought up in the car, which is that a lot of their goals in rebranding or restarting the show brand new is to have every episode as a jumping off point for a potential new audience. And you brought up the fact that it doesn't feel that way. It doesn't feel like you can jump in at any point. But it also doesn't.
Despite them trying to achieve that.
And it also doesn't feel like it's connected to any of the other episodes. They each feel incredibly isolated. Whereas the old show, even if you had no background, you could jump in anywhere watch the episode and enjoy it.
But then it felt entirely connected to where it could interest you to watch more. You could watch an episode at any point and be like, oh, that's interesting. Maybe not all of them. So I'm never watching this show again. But let's say one of the good ones, maybe. And then it gets you interested in like, oh, there's a whole world here.
Exactly.
There's so much history. I want to learn more. And this is just like, you could jump into any of them, but it feels like you would be lost, and that it wouldn't create that interest because there's no grounding.
Yeah.
There's no,
And that's the point I want to make is there's no consistency in the world, right? It feels like each episode, the world has different rules. We are in a different, when I say world, of course, I mean like, universe, the collection of planets. We're in a different single one every episode where it has different rules. It applies differently. And that's why there's no
arbitrary
connectivity between it. Yeah. I'll read the notes, I guess. My mistypings always make these so much better. The Griggle. Because we in the Murray Gold score, we get a hint of the giggle. Doctor Who tries to explain why the Beatles music is bad.
So true.
This is a 4 out of 10. I think this episode is decent. It's watchable. It's not great. Yeah. And then we saw a preview at the end of this. Stephen Moffat's back. We see this preview, and after this goofy episode with a musical, the preview is the Doctor steps on a mine, and he's just standing on a mine.
And it's called Boom.
And
he's so psyched.
He's gonna blow up and fucking die. And then we disappear for months. We come back and we watch Boom. And we wanted to boom our brains out throughout the episode.
Yeah, it was super mid.
Yeah. So Boom's about space Anglicans, which is not a new idea for Moffat. I think in the first Angel episode, that's like a military or second Angel episode with River Song, that's like a military church organization. I don't know.
I think you're right.
Anglicans it's the "Why is my dick sucked" episode.
the Angels one.
Yeah.
It's them. Yeah.
I think they might be Anglicans as well. I don't know.
Yeah.
But this is a recurring idea. Basically, there's bombs on the field. There's a mega. It's
a foggy battlefield.
A mega Raytheon Lockheed Martin organization that's supplying weapons to these Anglicans to fight their war, and also supplying medical ambulances that, in true Moffat fashion, it went too far in repairing. It's a medical. It went too far and end up killing people, turning them into AI holograms that are apparently sentient and can go in and blow up machines. And the Doctor's on a bomb, and that's the episode. Thoughts?
I thought the theme of this episode was executed really poorly. Again, it's not something they haven't touched on before, with the whole capitalism and capitalizing on violence itself. There is no real enemy. The fish people and the humans fighting each other for no reason. Anyway,
right.
There is no enemy, but it's like, and I'm not surprised by the premise, but it's just like, I think they do it really poorly in this one that I can't. Again, it's like this new series is for babies, because anyone who can form their own thoughts can realize this doesn't make any sense. They haven't been fighting anyone this whole time. It's all just been like self-inflicted injuries or whatever to keep the war going. Buy more stuff from the big military company.
Yep.
But they're not gaining any sort of capital out of this war.
Right.
They're not gaining at least not that we saw. They weren't gaining any resources. What do they
And we've seen the planet's shit. They're not colonizing it for.
So what are they paying with?
Yeah.
Like what? And it has to be backed by something, some actual tangible capital.
Right.
But
what was the inception of this war? Like, what brought them here? That's never explained. It's like, oh, we had to kill these people, but then it's like these people aren't real. So what was the if you're gonna make a critique like this, I think what you're getting at is that you have to prove what the mechanisms that bring it about are, and those mechanisms are in essential capital, right? Things like oil, or the security of the Middle East for American allies, or things like this. Why do we want the war in Ukraine going? Oh, so we can send missiles to both sides, so that Raytheon and Lockheed can make money because they're the government contractors that more or less, at least run the military through lobbying and through capital and through everything. Mm-hmm. So why are the Marines here? Like, what's that capital incentive? They're here to shoot each other and to flop on mines. And like you said, this should be no surprise. The writers of Doctor Who, and this has always been true, are, because they work for BBC, because they work for Western liberal media, liberal capital, have a very myopic lens. And they want to seem progressive. They want to present these, challenging ideas, these challenges to the status quo. But because of the instrument, the medium they're communicating through, they always end up in a way reinforcing the status quo. And there are ways where you can do this story so much better. I think of Oxygen from series 12, where Capaldi goes fucking blind.
Yeah, Oxygen is itself like rare, like
you have to pay for it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it can be done well, and it often is. Like, sci-fi has done this for years. You look back at half of the fucking original series Star Trek episodes, and they're like at least thinly veiled, capital critiques. Look back at Next Gen, things like that. I think it's just the BBC writers, and I'm somewhat fond of Moffat and his silly ideas. I think the BBC writers are incompetent idiots.
I'm at the point where I actually can't tell if they are this stupid or they just think we are so stupid that it needs to be dumbed down to this level where nothing is explained, and once put under a greater lens of scrutiny, you realize that it doesn't make any sense.
And Moffat's had, like Davies we've talked about, has had really, really stupid ideas before. He has done really dumb things. He's had really bad, horrible patches of writing. Look at all of Let's Kill Hitler, for an example, or even like what A Good Man Goes to War, the next one. But I feel like this episode is somehow stupid in a different way to how Moffat usually is, and makes me question how much the show has transitioned from the Chibnall era onwards into just a community written product, where the board at Disney and the board at BBC says, no, you need to make that simpler. You need to dumb that down.
A little bit too transgressive, a little bit too, just too complex. But at the same time, it's like they are trying to tackle complex issues.
Yes,
but
they are
just doing it in really stupid,
really unnuanced,
diluted ways.
Yeah, exactly. Really simplistic ways, which is in a way a transition, I suppose, because I won't say a lot, but a couple of Jodie Whittaker's episodes are like surprisingly degressive politically. And I don't think that was intentional. I think they were so incompetent in writing that they like switched, in the wrong direction. And I think they're back on the blend of the Western liberal progressive, but like you said, they've just been forced to dumb this down to an absurd level where it's meaningless at this point. You're doing nothing. You're saying nothing.
The Doctor convinces once people die, their consciousness can be uploaded as a programmed artificial intelligence.
Right.
The Doctor convinces an art. Well, it's not even
their conscience. It is an AI. It's an AI hologram.
Yeah, it's
to send like one message. Yeah,
and it's like, I guess, okay, so giving it the benefit of the doubt, maybe in a far-flung, advanced sci-fi world, the phrase artificial intelligence, intelligence truly means something more than it does now.
Sure.
In the current world where we are now, artificial intelligence, it's not actual.
It's fucking stupid.
It's not actual intelligence. It's just
it's computation.
Exactly. It's pulling from I'm not qualified to explain it, but it's not. It's programming still.
Even the most advanced AI is entirely computational. It takes a database. It takes a set of databases and it composites them in a way that agrees with the prompt it was given.
So in the modern current where we are definition of artificial intelligence, the doctor would not be able to convince it to do anything beyond its means.
Yeah. And what did Dalton say? You can't use pathos on a website.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, on Google.
So once again, as we've seen throughout the season, and we'll continue to see, the ending is just the stupidest contrivance of they think you have no thinking behind your eyes, no thought in your head. I guess I'll just go into the notes unless you care, please. It's made out of fuck. It's making fun of British people again, how they say fog. We get a Moffat classic line in this. Everywhere's a beach eventually.
Yeah, what does that mean? What does it mean?
This is a 3 out of 10 for me. It's bad. It's not good.
That's fair.
Yeah, I guess we'll move on, please. We get after this, I think, the one saving grace for me, at least, of this season, which is 73 yards. This is still leaning into that fantastical fairy tale side that we've been experiencing so far, but it does it in a much more interesting way, and is sort of a thing we've seen before, but is at the same time sort of a thing we haven't. And I think the direction on this was really good. When she goes into that Welsh pub, we get the wide angle close-ups, really low angles, Dutch angles. You feel that atmosphere, and when you shoot that lady standing outside, especially in that first Welsh part of it, it feels horrifying. Yeah,
just far away enough.
6.7 meters.
It's just far away enough that you can't quite make out this entity's face that comes in the form of an old woman that's following Ruby, and it is our this is also our Dr. Light episode, so it adds to the help.
So it's good.
Yeah.
So we start in Wales. What happens is the doctor disturbs a fairy circle and just fucking vanishes.
He knows a thing or two about disturbing fairies. Don't laugh at that. Don't laugh at that.
And then Ruby reads the note and says, Mad Jack.
Mad Jack, they used to call me. It takes a weird turn. She goes so long without being with the doctor. She's aged 40 with this entity still following her. Yeah. Every time she tries to, it has a perception filter around it. So every time she tries to point it out to somebody, they can see it once she's pointed it out to them.
Yes.
And if she tells them to go speak to it, they suddenly grow terrified of her and run away and make no contact with her, which is pretty hilarious.
Which is good, yeah. Especially when it happens to her mom. It's really good. But it's weird, the structure of this episode. It's split into 2 parts. And the first part is kind of strict horror and strict kind of gothic, classic supernatural type horror. They disturb this circle. This woman's following her. She makes her way to a Welsh pub. There's this really uneasy atmosphere. It kind of feels like, have you ever seen American Werewolf in London?
I have not. I've seen bits and pieces.
The opening of that, I feel they probably drew from this a lot. But it's eerie in the pub. There's these weird people. She goes, "Oh, can I pay with my phone?" And they play a prank on her.
Make her think it's before that sort of technology. Before
time. And then she's like, "Can you see that woman?" A guy goes to talk to her, runs away. The eerie atmosphere keeps up. A guy says, Mad Jack's gonna kill me first. You know he's gonna kill me first.
You know why? Because I'm a fairy.
And they play this prank on her because she brings up the name Mad Jack, and they want to play on the folklore and the superstition around Wales and the Welsh mythology. And then she stays there for a while, and the woman won't go, and they eventually kick her out. She's waiting for the doctor. Dr. comes back. So then we transition to the second half of the episode, which plays in a more sci-fi style. It's kind of like Girl Who Waited-ish with Amy. And like you said, we go through this 40 years. What happens? Her mom stops talking to her. Unit comes and Unit talks to her, and then they all just fucking leave.
Yeah, after they make contact.
And this keeps playing out until eventually she sees on the TV a prime ministerial candidate who says, they used to call me Mad Jack.
A Welshman.
Robert
Ap Gwilliam.
Robert Ap Gwilliam, and the doctor had said, the most dangerous prime minister in history, right as they came out. So
right, he's a future history.
Yeah. So she recognizes this. This is 2046. Her new mission, as she construes it, is to stop.
Yeah, because they create this very strange storyline here, this political intrigue, sort of drama out of nowhere in the middle of the episode, where this guy is just all about getting
nukes and nuking everyone.
Although the UK has nukes, doesn't it? Is it implied that?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure they do. It's implied that in this, by the time that he's running, I guess there was a disarmament of like most nukes around the world, except he's buying them from Pakistan. So I don't know. And like they never explicitly show you what makes him so abominable, but it's just implied through I don't know, this sort of chauvinist way he treats women or speaks, and how he speaks about, the strength of the nation. And but again, it's they try to be subtle about it more than I would expect.
Way more than you might expect.
More than I would expect. So the way I'm speaking of it really is all implication.
Yeah. I mean, we get one kind of like Mark Gatiss line where the girl who's, I guess,
she just says he's a monster.
Exactly.
But it's because of the implication that she's been abused.
Exactly.
By him, but we didn't see any of that. So again, it is trying to be subtle, which I give it credit for. And they just know he's going to get them into nuclear war for some reason.
Well, I think that's what Ruby just assumes based on what the doctor said.
She uses her ability to always know that the creature is at 73 yards away from her to put it on a stage with him, and he makes contact with it and then runs away.
Yep.
Makes a fool of him, and he drops out of the race. Which is kind of funny, clever thing to do with this strange phenomena that's happening to her.
And for me, at least, the interesting part of this is that's not where this ends either. We follow Ruby till she dies.
She says after that moment that she supposedly saves the world from this guy, like, is that what you were for? Like,
right.
Can you leave
but
me
it doesn't
alone
go
now?
away.
It doesn't go away. She's an elderly lady.
Yeah.
And she starts tripping out.
Yeah. And eventually, as she's dying, the monster starts finally moving closer to her in a pretty
there's a good
composed sequence, and she dies, and as she dies, she takes on the body of the creature as they first arrive, and through this, I don't know, imposition in time, is able to stop the doctor from stepping on the fairy circle. The woman disappears, and I guess the causality loop kind of like implodes on itself.
Right, and it's not explicitly explained to us, which given under any other circumstance, that would actually have a greater impact in this episode if it weren't in the season that it were in.
Yes, no, absolutely.
The fact that it there are several key moments in Doctor Who where something isn't explained or shown, like the monster on Midnight, what was happening there.
Exactly.
And that lends itself to being one of the greatest episodes of the series. But the fact that this episode, again, has this unexplainable, cosmic phenomena, I keep using the word, but is in this entire series where episode by episode, we're getting that almost every time, where something is just nonsensical, and it's not necessarily, this creates a mystery.
Yes.
And mysteries, I think, can be left unsolved, left wanting, and still be and even enhance them and still be good, and that being left out in the open. But again, throughout this season, when we're given potentially supernatural phenomena, it's nonsensical, and it overplays its welcome, or overstays its welcome. I would say so. That sort of dampens the effect of this one, unfortunately.
At the end, there is kind of a question of causality too. Of, well, if the loop was resolved there, was this thing that was following her, was that Ruby coming back through her timeline, or was it just this unrelated phenomena?
I think it's simply it simply is just another one of this fairy tales. It more literal in this time.
Yeah, literally, because they break the fairy circle.
It's just a curse that was placed on her, but I don't know. Yeah, again, I don't know why somehow her living throughout the rest of her life without the doctor, without getting rid of this curse, which is what it is, that she's able to sort of remedy, create a unhindered timeline. There is no explanation there, which again I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with, just if not for the fact that nothing is explained this season.
right. To answer your earlier question, very possible. The UK is one of 5 nations with nuclear warheads, but they have a long track record of nuclear dismemberment and currently have the least nukes. They used to have more, but they've disarmed a lot. So it's very possible by 2046 they would have disarmed them all. Whatever. They bring up another Russian thing in this episode. There's a throwaway line. They're like, I forgot what they fucking say. The Russian War of 2025 or something. It's a future one, right? But not explained. I don't mind it. I thought it was pretty interesting, but you're right. It is definitely lessened by the continuum it exists within. All right. Notes time. Discount RE4 Ashley. That's what Ruby be looking like. Did you do whales? I don't know what that's. 7 out of 10. I like this one. It was pretty good.
It was pretty good, especially for this series. Probably the best episode.
Absolutely the best episode. Yeah,
definitely. The episode following this one, I like the ending of it, but that's really its only shining moment.
If we count the specials, this might face a small amount of contention with the Goopy Donna one, just because that was kind of fun. But other than that, and maybe the giggle as well. The giggle was pretty good. You know, the one where they like melting CGI
monsters.
Yeah.
I will say cinematography in this episode, not a fan. Shot very much like a modern.
It's very
Netflix film
because you're right.
The beginning it was straight, but once they reached the pub, I thought the pub sequence was good, but the exterior, the scenic shots of Wales, the hills of Wales, I thought looked strange.
Everything just looks so glossy and artificial now.
It's like I couldn't tell if it was real or not.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is a good thing.
No.
Like one way or the other. Like if you're in a studio, I don't know, there's sort of some comfort in knowing that.
Right.
And then versus you being outside, but then the effect and the camera and the depth of field you're using makes me believe that you might not be outside. I don't think that's a good thing.
Yeah, it kind of defeats the point of shooting.
It doesn't look real.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's just an aside.
So the next episode here is Dot and Bubble.
Let's go.
Dot bubble down. Dot on.
Black Mirror episode.
That's my first note is Black Mirror. This is on probably the farthest we've ever gone into just a Black Mirror episode. So it's like, haha, everyone's on social media so they don't see monsters eating them.
They literally live in a bubble.
They
literally live in a bubble, folks. Folks, they live in a bubble. They're bubbled up. They're dot.
bubbled.
It's something they say because the dot is this floating sci-fi AI, dot AI is creating the image of a bubble, which is your screen.
They're bubbled up.
Constantly talking to your friends, even though they might be literally right next to you.
Yep.
And there's a slug creatures eating everyone.
And there's an emo guy.
They're just walking right into them.
My Chemical Romance, almost certainly.
Yeah, for sure. He's like a hot, pop star guy. And
yep.
The main character we're following, she
was it Lindsay or something?
Whatever. The doctor and Ruby are just communicating to her via her bubble. And,
she's bubbled up.
For some reason, the doctor can't get in and save as many people in that society, but he's trying to save her. And
yep.
She meets the pop star, and they're getting away, and they figure out the slugs are eating everybody alphabetically.
Yep.
And then the great reveal is that it was the dots the whole time. They developed a hatred, a resentment for their owners, and are killing them. And so the dot proceeds to kill the pop star after, what's her name, Lindsay?
Lindsay, I think.
Well, we're just gonna go with that. Has outed his true last name that he switched since birth as a C, so the dot changes its target and kills him, and she escapes, which I'll get to in a second. But just as a point right now, so if the perpetrators were the fucking AI dots, what the fuck are the slugs there for? And the fact that the dots can create a velocity to go through the human skull and kill you instantly, and they literally operate by projecting the bubble right in front of your head. Fucking forehead. Why didn't they just kill everyone simultaneously? What the fuck is the point of the slugs? I know it's a mislead, but that again, what were you thinking?
I think, to be honest, to answer this question, not only is it a mislead, it is only there. I mean, narratively, it's there because they're like, oh, they created it. Yeah. But yeah, exactly. That's why it's there. It's metaphorically. It's like, oh, you're so glued to your screen.
But then make it work. I don't know. Make it work. If you want to create that narrative, a physical, hostile being to suit your narrative message, why not also make it make sense? Whereas their masters are using them to kill the humans, whereas they could just kill the humans themselves in an instant.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense.
And also, why would they go alphabetically?
Why does it matter? Exactly.
Because they're an AI, I guess. More reason is so the narrative works, but...
Yeah, the only interesting thing to come out about that was the fact that Lindsay
she's presented in the first half as ditzy and as not necessarily empathetic, but like caring. She kind of cares when her friends disappear. She doesn't want to deal with the danger. She gets she's super scared when the monsters are there. We don't necessarily like her. I don't think we're supposed to, but we understand her situation.
Yeah, it seems like you are supposed to warm up to her.
Yeah.
And then she just does that. She sells this guy she actually admires out as soon as her life is in immediate danger.
Yeah.
Which is the only interesting thing about this episode, because it
the pivot that the last third takes. Yeah.
Yeah, it delves into this strange sort of commentary on human nature in an interesting way. The doctor, these colony worlds are dying because of this AI malfunctioning. What is it? Not malfunctioning, but
it gained general intelligence.
Anyway. But then what are they called? Bubble lights?
Bubble lights. What are they called? Bubbled up. I don't remember what the planet's called.
Twinsies.
It's called Fine Time, right?
Yeah, the Fine Timeians.
Yeah. FaceTime, Facebook.
Fine Timeians
they're bubbled down.
They're gonna do their own thing. They're gonna figure out what to do next. The doctor meets up with them after she escapes and offers to take them all on his time machine.
Yep.
And they turn him down
in
a very obviously rude, judgmental way, like saying, he's like, well, look at you.
What do they say? Like, it was fine talking to you through the phone, but in person.
Yeah, at first I couldn't tell if they were trying to go the racial route with it, or if it was just a class thing. Because and you're right. does seem to be just a class thing because they bring up the fact that they're fine-Timians.
Right.
And they're like, and they are like this very idyllic, like 50s-esque.
And not only that, early on, the Doctor and what's her name? Ruby Rose? Ruby comment on the fact that, these are basically like rich kids sent to a retreat is what they say.
Yes. So then the Doctor laments at the fact that they're so stupid and stubborn based on their own status.
He hits his tenant stance.
Yeah, hands in the pockets, long coat. And then we end on a close up of Lindsay or whatever the fuck her face is.
Yep.
The Doctor leading through his TARDIS. So it's a bit of a almost like a Water of Mars turn.
Yeah. It felt, Water of Mars has the consistency of tone. This felt like such an abrupt turn because of how stupid and banal and cliched the
rest of the
Black Mirror first half was.
Yes.
Which almost lends more power to it because of this dichotomy.
But that's not necessarily a good thing.
Right.
It is more shocking because of the jump, but again, that isn't very skillful storytelling.
No, absolutely.
It's sort of just incidental at the fact that you weren't able to
write a good first part. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was first half sucked. I thought it was a little bit better because of that ending there and just the things that it is potentially exploring, but I don't really have anything else.
Yeah, that's basically it. My other notes besides Black Mirror, Subway Surfers, because they have they're bubbled up.
They're bubbled up.
And I don't even know what this means. Okay, truck. Oh, okay, track. The Murray Gold track at the end is the first time in this season since maybe like the Giggle Suite was all right. That I went, okay, like Murray Gold's back. Like this is actually good music, good strings. I feel this, which I haven't felt, in the whole Chibnall era. So it's good to have him back. I don't think he nearly hits as hard. He has these little like moments here and there. But
no, but I mean, he doesn't have a lot to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a 4 out of 10 for me. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. Next we get our only. I think this is. Oh, I guess we have the Beatles. We get our only like Victorian era
period.
Flashback. What do we call that? Historical episode.
They keep referencing what's it called? It's a very popular modern period drama. Modernism.
Oh, Bridgerton. Yeah.
They reference that.
They do, yeah.
And yet they're also trying to be Bridgerton in the ways that they sort of
historical
cherry pick and or even just betray historical truths. But yeah, I find I just, and they also use they use modern pop songs, and
they do. They use Bad Guy, and they use, it's in my notes here, and Poker Face.
Versions.
Yeah.
So it's like they're referencing Bridgerton, and then they're trying to be Bridgerton throughout that whole episode.
It's very bizarre, and this is something I've always had the question about, because this happens in the Shakespeare and the Witch one, Shakespeare Code. But you know what? I'll fuck it. Fuck all of you. Shakespeare Code, top tier episode, because it's the only one who fucking did this. Fuck everyone. I hate all of you listening, which is like one guy.
Crying.
Who's now going to jump out a window because I said that. But I just don't understand. I don't understand the minds of these BBC writers. Because like I said, these are the progressive, liberal-minded, like egalitarian, social, political.
You're about to go into how they want it both ways.
I am, because if you're going to do that, like this, here's the point of Doctor Who, right? The point of Doctor Who, like most sci-fi shows, like a Star Trek, like things like that, is to explore issues through the lens of sci-fi, right? Basically. And if you have a show that can do that, but then you're just going to ignore the racial issues or the class indifferences or the one they choose to acknowledge in this episode, which is the homosexuality of the era. Why would you choose to ignore that? Why would you modernize that to the point where your dumb baby audiences, the people you think are dumb babies, are going to say, "Oh, that era was like that too. Oh, we're fine. We don't have any struggle left to go. We've solved racism."
Well, that's the thing, though, is the crowd was very racially diverse, but it was the homosexuality that was taboo.
Yes.
So I don't know. It's just they want it both ways. They want to have a diverse show.
Right.
So even when it's in a historical era where it doesn't make any sense, they still need it, and then at the same time are sort of absolving themselves of any sort of past historical sins. I don't like putting it that way, but it's all that's coming to mind at this time. And then also touching on a commentary on homosexuality and that how it was seen in that era. It's sort of mixed messaging.
Well, it does two things, right? One, it misses a chance for drama, which the point of the show, narratively, is to create tension, is to create drama, so that you have a narrative, you have threats to the story. And you are giving up a chance at drama when you do that. You exchange it for other things, whatever. Two, what you're suggesting there is that, hey, we've solved racism. It's been solved since there. Now the only problem we need to focus on is homosexuality, is LGBT rights, whatever. That's kind of what it suggests in a way. It's not what they mean, of course, but that is what they're saying through their choices, which is so bizarre. I don't know.
Well, I think it's just ahistorical. I don't think it was both ways. Not that there were never any diverse upper class people, but it certainly isn't as much as the BBC studio makes it out to be.
Yeah, and there would be a fuss about it. Like the Doctor is someone these people don't know. The Countess doesn't know. No one knows. This black man in whatever this is, 1880.
Like, where are you?
Walks into your fucking ball.
Yeah,
you're gonna say something. It's not
but they had other black characters
but
there.
Presumably, to give the writers credit, in that case, the Countess probably knew that.
Right.
So we'll say there's a status quo for them. Yeah. But you would say something about the Doctor walking in. And not just because he dances and kisses a man later on. It's because this black man has walked into your ball. Which, again, back to Shakespeare code, they do to Martha. It's like, wow, the one time you fucking acknowledge it.
Not just in that, but also in the Family of Blood.
And Family of Blood. And
it makes sense.
It does.
And it's not like, that's not offensive. Like, it just would fit. That's how it would be.
Yeah.
And in fact, in that sense, you are creating more of a commentary on it.
Exactly.
Other than just ignoring it, and then applying it to a different sort of social,
like marginalized group. Yeah, exactly.
It's just Anyway,
very bizarre.
I had to touch on that before I forgot. I probably wouldn't have forgotten, but we're going off the cuff.
This has just turned into like a fucking political podcast. What else? There's owl people who shapeshift in this episode.
Who cares?
There's a gay bounty hunter who's like a stand-in thematic replacement for Jack Fartness.
So this isn't the first time the Doctor has been kissed by a man.
No.
In the form of being
fart jart.
What you just said. But it was done, at that time it was done in a comedic way.
Right.
Whereas now it is done in this way that it's another flight of fancy. That's another person that the Doctor has seen himself having a life with, or maybe the person kissing him seeing themselves have a life with the Doctor.
Yeah.
But usually in these other times, the Doctor is either showing affection because he's impaired in some way, he doesn't, like, his memory is gone, or like, again, Family of Blood.
Yeah.
He's showing affection for this woman because he believes he's a human.
And he believes is it his wife in that?
They're just
I don't remember.
Like acquaintances, sort of courting each other a little bit. Anyway, it was a big deal when he asked her to the date.
Right. That episode's great. It's one of the best.
Or like, he's sort of fancying Girl in the Fireplace.
Yeah.
But again,
both
there's
not written by Davies. Let me just say.
Yeah, I'm not trying to give him credit for that. I'm just saying. He still retains that distance.
Yeah.
He's had these moments several times. Like, there's no denying that.
Even with Rose, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and companions are sort of
different.
Subject,
yeah, of course.
But with one-offs, he's had this before. But there's a reason they're one-offs. You know, sometimes he'll offer them to be his companions. He does in this case as well.
Yeah.
And then something happens to the person. They either die or they decide not to come.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm getting at, I've sort of argued myself into a corner here. Whereas there isn't really. It's not that this is unprecedented.
Right.
It's that I don't like it.
Well, in a way, I think it is unprecedented. And here's why. I'm going to use your two examples to prove this.
Yeah.
Family of Blood, like you said, he is the Doctor, but he's not. He's John Smith in that. He is his memories are gone. He is a different person in that. So it is totally justifiable that in this human environment, he lives there for like 6 months or more. Of course he's going to like develop some relationship.
I think I see where you're going with this. And he's been flirty before.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
But I think not at this level.
Yeah.
I think this is taken a step further.
So that's the Family of Blood case. Look at Girl in the Fireplace. It's kind of, Girl in the Fireplace was the blueprint for Amy
Or the
Pond.
Planet of Dead.
Kind of. Yeah, like Planet of the Dead.
Planet of the Dead.
But in Girl in the Fireplace, like, this is someone he watched grew up. It was... Yeah. There is this romantic interest, but it's also like a fatherly interest. Like, he has raised this girl through different periods of her life when she was in danger.
Yeah.
And so that connection makes total sense.
And when he did the same thing with Amy and she came on to him, he rejected her.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So you see the seeds of this passion. It's not just in the adrenaline of adventure and in everything. It's in these genuine connections of, knowing someone their entire life, whether that entire life lasted 20 minutes or, you're with them for 6 months or whatever. In the case of this, not only does the Doctor meet this guy for, 20 minutes, in like a small snippet,
gaying it up,
but this person is very opposed to the Doctor in every view. And so we've seen that happen before with flirtiness, with like Jack Fartness, who is also kind of ideologically opposed to the Doctor in a way, is kind of the same bounty hunter type character. But with that, it was, like you said, this surface level flirtiness and this camaraderie and companionship.
Yeah.
Whereas the direction they choose to go with this one, it is a deep connection. It's similar to something like Girl in the Fireplace.
Like some sort of deeper loss.
Yeah. Like there was a inkling of love and not just like lust or flirtiness there, which is strange.
There's some lust.
It's strange.
I'm sure it has a lot to do with the way the actor plays it.
And that's what I think I'll get to at the end. Yeah.
Remember?
I don't know.
I don't know myself.
But
I believe he might be one of those queer people. And so I mean he really gets to I think
you're correct. Yeah.
Thrive in that role for that episode. But it feels like a betrayal of the character because not that the Doctor hasn't been flirty before,
right? But he certainly has.
But just the whole like him annoying him by playing the music thing, dancing suggestively. Yeah, that's new. That's new for the Doctor, I think.
Yeah.
So it is a bit unique.
I want to read a Reddit post I just found looking this up because I think it's funny. It's titled "I Hate Shooty Gatwa."
Oh boy,
on r/Doctor Who.
I'm trying to show restraint here.
Yeah, so let's hear this guy.
Yeah.
Let's hear this guy out. A very short post. Probably one of the most irritating, saccharine, sycophantic, over-the-top people in the public eye at the moment.
Did you write them?
I did not. As a gay man, I'm so sick of gay people being portrayed as flouncing, ridiculous stereotypes as if we were all camp, all over the top all the time. He seems like he's only got about 3 brain cells, and it's only been cast in the role of the Doctor from Doctor Who, which he has no respect for, as a symptom of Russell T Davies' sick, liberal, midlife crisis.
Thank you, Reddit game man.
Thank you, Gay Reddit man.
Thank you, Gay Reddit man. Well, to be a little fair to the portrayal, the Doctor is
flamboyant, is over the top, exactly.
Character. So when you create this queer edge to him with a queer actor,
right,
it is, I think, just going to enhance that.
Yeah, it's not. I don't want to get into this because I just don't give a shit. But it's not playing into queer stereotypes for the sake of it. That's always kind of been a big aspect of the character, and he's just bringing himself
and English
to it.
People in general.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Look at Sean Lennon.
Anyway, let's move on. Anyway, he dies for fucking retarded reasons that don't make sense.
And yeah, I don't know, it's stupid.
And the Doctor, again, takes it as, I mean, sometimes when he creates a connection with somebody, he does show more of a sense of loss.
Right, he is somewhat the classic, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, but this one just feels a little like, really?
You understand why it's done. It's for a political purpose.
Yes.
But like everything, whatever.
I'll bring up the crying at the end.
Yeah. We'll get to that. We'll get to that in the overall performance, right? My notes are Bad Guy and Poker Face, just the songs I played. This is a 3 out of 10. It's okay. It's somewhat fun. It feels.
The only thing I liked about this episode was the location.
Yeah.
Was that this looked real.
It did.
This looked like a real place, a real manor. I'm sure it was.
Probably.
The costumes were good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fun enough. I would never rewatch it again. That's that.
There are much more fun episodes.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Go watch Unicorn on the Wall.
Damn. I even kind of think the Titanic episode is fun.
You would.
I do.
You're sick.
You're sick.
So now we come to kind of what is a 2-part finale, or like the setup and then the payoff for the finale, whatever you want to call it. First one is the Batman Begin title drop of Legend of Ruby Sunday.
We're already there.
We're already there.
Damn.
You be zooming. I'll let you take. I cannot even speak on this episode.
Don't think it's This might be contender, at least for me, for one of the worst season finales.
Oh, this
what do you got? The other serious stinkers are Chibnall's, right?
Yes, those are the only 2 that can compete with this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the only 3 that can compete with this are Battle of Rancid Ass Colon.
Yeah.
The Timeless Child, which is still just the worst fucking Doctor Who episode. Okay. And the series 8 finale, what is that? Death in Heaven with Cybermen, Missy, fucking brain numbing, blow my brains out.
What about What about the wait? Oh yeah, Timeless Child.
Yeah.
Yep. It's up there. It's I would actually. It would be a challenge, sort of.
Sort those out. Yeah.
Those 3, those are suffering. It was painful to look at the screen. Because going back to this,
so fucking ugly.
Yeah. Again, going back to this meta-analysis, I was about to say is these people thrive on just creating these ugly environments.
But well, and cinemagraphically, like we talked about with 73 Yards, it is so bland. It's the Russo brothers, approach to Doctor Who, where everything is just gray and flat, and the lighting is even, and everything's CGI and clean and glazed, and
performances were shit too.
Yeah,
what's the lady leader of unit?
Kate.
I've never enjoyed any of her performances. I think they're getting worse as the script gets worse.
Well, yeah.
I've gotten to the point where I just am angry every time I see her on screen. And now this new band of fucking Scooby-Doo Mystery Machine
Right.
bullshit.
It's the spin-off tie-in to the
It's like Torchwood, but somehow
but
more
worse.
gay. Somehow they managed to make it more
How did you
homosexual
do it?
despite having less homosexuals. It's getting bad.
Torchwood, emphasis on the wood.
They try to shoehorn in this. I mean, they don't shoehorn it in, but it feels very shoehorned in. Whereas Davies like sets up his season arc with the little sprinkles, the hints
Right.
of this old woman's face that they've seen throughout.
It's following me
throughout different moments in time on his journeys with Ruby. And now they've gone back to modern England, and she's an IT tech startup for this technology. I don't even remember how that helps, but I'm sure it does somehow.
Well, this is, again, like, here we go, just fucking going into a full political podcast. But this is something interesting, too, because this feeds into, like, a symptom of the Chibnall era, I suppose, which is that this lady, what is her name? Susan Tardis, Susan Travis, we just watched this like 2 hours ago. Susan, it's a TARDIS anagram, whatever. Just like Arbinger, but
holy shit, and they do it again. They
do it again.
Literally do that again.
The point is, she is this tech billionaire, and her message that we only get like little glimpses of because we hacked to do her broadcast or whatever is like, these tech billionaires are taking money from you, are providing platforms that are.
That's what I think she was saying.
No, I'm getting that. Yeah, like that's what she's saying. That's her speech, and then she's the bad guy because she said something like that.
But it's not really, because at the end.
Well, it doesn't matter. That's my point, right? That's my point. There's no thematic way.
That statement.
Yeah,
nothing.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's because she's giving away that software for free.
Yeah.
Is the point of that speech. I feel like that was more of a, surprisingly, although there is a statement being made there, I feel like that was actually sort of throwaway.
It is. No, it absolutely.
But I mean, I just mean throwaway even by the writers.
Yes.
Like, I don't think they were trying to be super, like.
I agree. Yeah. No.
I think it was meant to be a sort of can.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying in their throwaway lines, they're saying something that they don't believe in. You know, they're painting this idea of the like philanthropic billionaire tech person.
Anyways, ladies, Susan Harbinger, what's her name? It's an anagram for TARDIS. So
Harriet
Arbinger. Her, so they stay away and instead try to figure out through unit high tech VHS scene recreation software.
Well, they have a time hole, so it's not a recreation. Yeah. They're literally like recreating time. They're reaching through time
to see Ruby's true mother's face, and then when that happens,
why? Okay, why? Why does Sutek come out then? Like, what? Why was he like, okay? I guess that's what Susan was counting down to, and it was just a coincidence. I don't know.
I think there was something there about like the software that she made was relevant to the plan. Was it?
I don't think it was.
Are you sure?
I'm not sure because I didn't want to look at the fucking screen because it was flat, boring, aesthetic, creamy.
Ugly people.
Yeah, it's so, the construction is just so mind-boggling bizarre. But this brings us to another one of the attempted themes of the season, which is family. You know, to quote Carrie Fisher on The Last Jedi, it's all about family.
That's at least Ruby's arc, yes.
Not only is it Ruby's arc, but it's kind of the Doctor's too, because he thinks this is his granddaughter. He's like reconnecting with family.
But I felt totally shoehorned.
Oh yeah, no.
Because he, for no reason that's extrapolated at all, he is like, her first name is Susan. I had a granddaughter named Susan.
Well, it's kind of Ruby's fault because I think it's Devil's Cord, he tells her about his granddaughter. Her name's Susan. They travel together, whatever. So I think Ruby is like, Susan, isn't that your granddaughter's name? So I don't know. It's like, but like, why would he? Why would he
Why wouldn't he immediately dismiss that and be like, there's a million Susans?
Fucking Sutek, I don't know if that's...
Why would his Time Lord granddaughter be there? Is she a Time Lord?
Yeah, she's a Time Lord.
Yeah, I'm assuming she'd at least be half, right? It was...
Yeah, she's a Time Lord.
Okay, full Time Lord?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I didn't watch Classic Who.
Well,
why would she be there?
And not only that, but fucking Sutek has a line, I don't know if it's this episode or the next, where he's like, and you fell for the perfect plan. I disguised her as Susan.
Expecting family, doctor. And he looks so shocked. It's like, I was about to say something. No, brother, you can't. There isn't anything to be shocked at. You are a retard. It was like, this woman shares the name of my granddaughter. There's no reason for me to believe it's her, but I just am for some reason.
Yeah, there really is just nothing.
I disavow Davies after this.
Good. Glad to hear it. Join the club.
I know. I mean, I don't empirically know, but I'm not an idiot, so therefore I know that there is absolutely some sort of studio interference.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I'm still going to direct as the man in charge.
He is the showrunner. Yeah,
I am going to place the blame upon his shoulders.
And it's not just the studio interference that is bad. It's also the arc and the character writing, and it's everything. It is his fault.
It's canned.
Like, who can you point it at?
Uninspired. It's like not. It's not fully fleshed. It's
not flesh.
It's not flesh. I'm gonna tear my flesh off after watching this one.
So I'm gonna skip over 90% of this episode because I just cannot deal with the mediocrity, the banality of it, the ugliness of every fucking shot. We get to the end, and I called it at the start of the season when we had Mr. Giggle and we had Maestro come out. Mm-hmm. They're all like, "Oh, something bigger's coming, something I'm afraid of." I said to you, it's going to be one of two things because we're all just pulling from Classic Who now. It's going to be one, Fenric coming back, which would have been way fucking cooler, but whatever, why do I care? Or two, it's going to be Sutek coming back. And here we are. I was right. Happy to say. Mm-hmm. I'm not happy to say. I don't care. Yeah, so the end of this episode has Sutek emerging from the Fartis, and an old woman says the line. She does the Bart, says the line from the 1970 episode. Sutek and I bring death. Whatever it fucking is, who cares? It's the same thing that the Harbinger in Pyramids of Mars says. Whatever. And then it ends. And that's this episode.
Yeah. I mean, it does end on a very reminiscent, Doctor Who cliffhanger.
Yes.
But it's bad.
I don't know why this comes to mind right now, but wouldn't it have been so much better if he walked into the bathroom and slammed his head against the glass and went, how's Annie? How's Annie?
That would have been a cliffhanger.
That's how you do a fucking cliffhanger.
And then you don't come back for 20 years.
Yeah, so that's this episode. I'll probably just read the notes unless you have, I don't know, another rant to say.
My only other notes in your notes.
Yeah, first note here, ild people are old, which is supposed to be old people are evil. Mm-hmm. Also, I know this is Davies is taking notes now from Moffat and setting up season arcs in the future. Mrs. Flood, whatever her fucking name is, comes in to murder Ruby's grandmother, and then it's just like, "Oh, we're turning to dust now. Hope you pray."
Oh, we turn into dust now. Yeah.
I think that's at the start of the next episode.
I do have a point to make. Once the Sutek's disciples or whatever the fuck start blowing dust and apparently
start blowing chunks.
Yeah, blowing chunks. The TARDIS, all of its spaces in time that it's been are being used as conduits to create this dust of death that's killing the universe. Yeah, because the Doctor's been so many places. Because Sutek's been attached to the TARDIS this whole time since the 70s. Yeah. As soon as I started seeing Ruby's family dying and all of London getting engulfed, I'm like, it's just going to be all
exactly.
done.
Yeah, it's the Infinity War.
There's no stakes.
Conundrum. Yeah,
you know where, and I mentioned this while we're watching, you know where there does feel like there's more stakes? When you're stranded in space with only like a dozen people.
And
then people start getting edgy.
Not only that
feels like stakes.
Not only that, but the people matter too. Look at Midnight or Waters of Mars. You establish these clear characters that you know and you understand, or Impossible Planet, right? And you start picking them off. We care because we know those people. Mm-hmm. This has the Man of Steel effect, where when you blow up a whole fucking city of people, of faceless people, we don't care. That's just a CGI fuckfest. Who cares? Yeah. Anyways, I'll keep going. Keep going now. This is the Flick slide. Our favorite guy. Warning: manifestation. So true. And then my last note is I called it in reference to Sutek. This is a 1 out of 10 for me. This episode fucking blows.
Yeah, no, it does. If my note was if this was 2005,
that's on the next one.
Oh, the next one.
The next one.
There would be real sand.
Yeah. That's the first episode on the next one.
Yeah.
Fuck. Oh my god, it's brain damaging to fucking even think back on that one. This had the effect of. Do you remember me watching Death in Heaven, that Capaldi finale where I was just screaming at the TV the whole time? This is the same. Oh yeah. I was so mad the entire fucking episode.
Yeah, looking back, Death in Heaven almost seems a little bit more well put together.
It's close. Yeah, it's close. I think that one makes me more mad, so I'll leave it below. But maybe on a revisit.
I'm just saying. I think it makes a little bit more sense.
Oh, it absolutely makes more sense.
In that time when they were trying.
Well, not only that, you have original Moffat interesting idea. Like, what if you feel pain after death? You know that whatever.
It was just just kind of really poorly put together.
Yeah.
But this, not only is it poorly put together, but its themes, its messages, its resolutions
are
fucking nothing. Complete nonsense.
Yeah. So that brings us to the last episode, which is Empire of Death. This is the full Sutek episode. Starts with the Man of Steel city wipe. The Doctor and Melanie and Ruby have to escape using a remembered TARDIS. It's just get kind of a fun little set, like piece together pieces of every TARDIS. And they go into space and the universe dies. And I said, hey, wasn't this the last season? Isn't this the Flux all over again? And you said, shut up, I hate you, and pointed a gun at me.
Well, I said yes, but they've done.
Yes, but I hate you.
They've done Death of the Universe. Lots
but it is literally the same because it's like dust, like the flush. What was it called? The
sort of.
Flux.
But it's more like it's happening to the planets he visited individually. The only interesting point I find is that the TARDIS, all of his spaces and time that it's been, are being used as conduits to destroy this planet. I think that is an interesting idea. I think it's a good idea for a season,
finale,
season threat. But he did the build up and the foreshadowing
in the episode,
with this woman's face.
Yeah.
Why didn't he use the TARDIS as the foreshadowing? That would have made way more sense. That would have been so much better.
Or show us, because what they said. Okay, this is something to unpack. Here's what they said. Right. Mm-hmm. Everywhere it lands, it creates a version of this woman who is a Harriet Arbinger, who walks off of the TARDIS onto this planet and assumes in a way the perception filter of the TARDIS, so she has a real history, is a real person, until she's CIA code activated by Sutek
Ultra,
into blowing chunks everywhere. And this has happened everywhere the TARDIS has landed with since the banishing of Sutek back in Pyramids of Mars. But then they go a step farther because he's talking about the perception filter and why they never saw the woman come off and why she has developed this persona or like created this identity essentially. And they say, the TARDIS perception filter reaches 66.7 meters, which is 73 yards. And Ruby's like, I knew that. And he goes, yeah, strange things happen at 73 yards. Like, why are you trying to tie in your one, like, interesting mystery into this?
Tie in
like,
a bit.
Fucking
yeah, they also
series
do it again with
or
Robert F. Goulian.
Exactly. Like, if you're going to do that, do it. Like,
actually tie it in?
Yeah.
No. We just got a name drop.
I don't know. Fuck. Maybe the lady at the fairy circle was one of these harbingers who malfunctioned. I don't care. I don't fucking care.
No,
like,
we just need to film the same woman in the same shot every time, like 5 times with different makeup on, and that's our fucking season arc.
If you're gonna reference it, fucking reference it. Don't just like throw it in this magical gooey magic poop fart.
It's just name dropping.
It is.
Not even, you're right. It's not referencing more so than it is name dropping.
Yeah, it's the Alien Romulus effect, right? Yeah. Which is, speaking of, that's what this finale is. It is, hey, remember this? Hey, remember this? Hey, remember this? Which is so strange, and we'll get back to this when we talk about, the construction of the show, whatever. So strange because this is meant to be a new entry point. Why are you bringing back not one, two? They do 2 villains from Classic Who in this season that very likely only Classic Who people will know. Not only do they do that, they bring back Melanie. Mm-hmm. So one companion from Classic. They're bringing back all this baggage and Unit and all these things that for a new viewer is going to be overwhelming.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to be like, what is this? What the fuck is this?
Yeah, they will not care.
Yeah.
So as far as making this palatable to new audiences, I don't think that's it.
And so the explanation for this is kind of interesting. If we go back to Pyramids of Mars, right, that episode starts with an archaeologist in, I think they say 1911 here, but I could have sworn it was the 20s, but maybe I'm wrong, bringing back a forbidden relic from Egypt to his Victorian house. And the Doctor and Sarah Jane arrive, and they find some interesting things, like a giant like telescope or like radio tower pointed at Mars, and Mars is sending a message like, beware Sutek. And the mummies are walking around the house. All these strange things are happening. And they realize that this sarcophagi.
That's the original?
Yeah.
That sounds fun.
It is fun, yeah. It's probably one of the best Classic Who episodes. This sarcophagus is actually a portal that's leading to this. I don't remember if it is to Mars itself or if it is to some other realm where they've trapped Sutek. And Sutek is what's called an Osirian. Mm-hmm. He's an alien from the planet of Osiris, which
supposedly was where the Egyptian myths come from.
Which was a planet of very powerful beings that inspired the Egyptian myths. Mm-hmm. And Sutek was banished from them because he just wanted to destroy everything.
The power of Ra.
He liked death and like blowing things up.
Playing with the big boys now.
So what they did is they put him in a chair and locked him in a room.
So true. He loves doing that.
And so the Doctor is genuinely afraid in that episode too, because Sutek is this force, but he's not a god. He's an alien.
By our
comprehensively, he's a god.
He would be,
yes. But, what they say in this episode is at the end of Pyramids of Mars, they banish him into the time vortex, the equivalent of the time vortex.
Yes.
And what they say in this episode is at that moment he grabbed onto the TARDIS and has just been raw dogging it for 70 years, whatever. And in doing so, he's absorbed some of this time vortex and has manifestation has manifested these characteristics as a real god.
I didn't want to give it credit because these episodes suck so much.
Yeah.
I thought the design was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
The CGI looked good.
It looked good. I would still prefer a guy in a goofy mask.
Yeah.
Genuinely.
Yeah. I haven't seen the original arc, so I can't speak on that much. I'm just taking it as I see it now.
Right.
Which I thought was crafted well, but again, it's overshadowed by this shitty episode. I thought the way that it was, constantly sort of like clawed
posted
on and like hunched over the TARDIS, I thought it was a striking visual.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That was pretty much the only good visual.
So they go through. They're trying to find Ruby's mother because Sutek can't find Ruby's mother.
I gotta know.
He needs to know. So there he is, Sutek. So Mel dies. Probably, yeah.
I'll keep talking.
Mel dies, and Sutek then is able to possess her. The Doctor is able to catch on to this ploy and then plan against it. So they understand that Sutek is onto them and is trying to find Ruby's mother. So they destroy the screen, which presumably presented Ruby's mother to her before Sutek can find her. And then they end up dragging Sutek on a rope back into the time vortex following the TARDIS. And this is where the strange or unexplainable or once again poorly written part of the episode occurs, which is they drag Sutek along the time vortex and his claws rip part of the time vortex, and the Doctor says death is going to negate death to create life. And we go, what? We go, what are you talking? This is the
Epitome.
The epitome and the end. Like, this has been the trajectory of terrible Davies' solutions to his problems. From the Dr. Jesus to the blow up all Daleks switch. This is like where you land when you
got more mad at Dr. Jesus than you did.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with Dr. Jesus.
Yeah,
genuinely.
And I'm probably more fine with
the blow up the Daleks.
Yeah, blow up the Daleks button more than you are. Although, yeah, I concede it is poorly thought out.
Yeah,
this is on another whole level.
Yeah, like what even happened? I can explain what they said.
Yeah,
but
I can explain what we visually saw on screen, but it's just nothing. And again, going back to what we hearkened, what we harbingered before with the whole. I was saying how it's just empty platitudes.
Yeah,
where it's chock full of it at the end of this arc, this series wrap up, where he's saying these things like your death, or I'm supposed to represent life, and now I'm gonna kill you. And then after everything's said and done, then they're chilling at unit after Mel is like
with their pizza party.
Death brought life.
Yeah. What
the fuck is going on? It doesn't. I don't know. I mean, again, completely taking the science out of the fiction.
Yeah.
Completely separating the two and just going full fanciful mode. You can maybe get away with it. Not that it's good, just that you can maybe get away with it because he has these abilities to just exude death.
Sure.
But again, the whole dragging him into the time vortex to use his own power to create life instead how does that reverse it?
Right, and I said to you the way they present it is as like a Hegel dialectic or something. Like death negated death does not equal life. Right. You know? And, the negation of death by death is not life. It doesn't resolve into life.
Yeah, looking past like how mechanically, technologically this was done.
Right.
And I'm still foggy on the whole how he's again a novel interesting concept using the cards as conduits throughout all the positions in space time. I'm still foggy on that as well. I guess
I like to imagine they park. Sutek's like hanging on the back, and he just shits out like an egg, and he becomes
That's my IT startup. Sutek.
Can we start this?
Yeah. It's nothing. I don't know any other way to describe it. I actually am like I didn't want to do this podcast right away after we finished.
I didn't ever want to do this.
I didn't want to do this one right after we just finished because I can't formulate the like criticism it deserves.
Right.
It's beyond thought. It's beyond comprehension, and not in the good way. It's like it's nonsensical. There's nothing to latch onto. It's almost beyond critique because it doesn't make any sense.
There's like hardly anything to critique. It's like you're critiquing like someone on crack. Like what? You're not gonna argue your way out of that one,
right? I don't know. It's so bizarre, and of course it's drawing from mythos of classic history, but it's also drawing from Egyptian mythos using Sutek, which is a different name for Set, the Egyptian god. But in that, and I know this is fiction. Why do I? In that it's using it inappropriately, because the way polytheistic religions have worked historically, and of course have to work by necessity, is you have these gods of things, and from a modern lens we view them very differently than the people of the past, right? Like a god of death, like a Thanatos in Greek mythology, like Set Egyptian mythology. We view them as like, oh, it's scary death man, but no one, unless you're just some fucking weirdo, is going to create this mythology, this religion, to worship something that's like, oh, we all must die, we're all going to kill things. What this represents in all polytheistic religions, and I know this doesn't really, why do I care, is you're worshiping things like safe passage into the afterlife. You're worshiping like, death without pain. These are how these myths emerge. You're not like worshiping someone who's going to destroy the universe. That's like a goofy, made up fantasy polytheistic religion that doesn't exist. But maybe you had crazy cults like that, or still do. Who cares? But if you're going to have a real religion, a religion for huge swaths of people, for Egypt, for what was Luxor part of the Nubia? You're not going to have a god that's like, oh, I'm here to destroy everything. That might be what they represent, but if you're worshiping them, there is nuance to it, right? There's always going to be a nuance to those guys. And this doesn't matter. Who cares? That's my weird rant for the night, off my chest.
All right.
I find it funny and I'm calling Doctor Who fantasy now because it is.
Absolutely.
But I find it funny in fantasy. This is a trope that comes up a lot, where you have this, in polytheistic fantasy, you have this god of destruction, or this god of death or uncreation. Because it's obviously a symbolic gesture. Duh, whatever. Like good versus evil. You look back to like the Zoroastrian, the Abrahamic kind of dichotomy there.
Forces of nature.
Exactly, yeah. And that works for fantasy because you have to have this big bad, oh, I want to destroy everything kind of guy. Mm-hmm. And that's why it's here. Mm-hmm. But Doctor Who should not be that kind of fantasy. It should not be Wheel of Time where you're fighting, the fucking Dark One. Because this is, again, replacing that central thesis that has run through Doctor Who in the past. And we'll get to that when we finish the season. But
a fantastical but explainable world.
Precisely.
Beyond us.
And the fact is, there's never going to be a sentient life creature out there, an alien or whatever, whose whole thing is like, I'm going to death the whole universe. That's fucking stupid.
I don't know. I mean, they kind of had basically straight up Satan at one point.
Yeah, that's the exception. That's the exception, right? Matt Jones came in and did it well, so he's allowed to do that.
Yeah. He drew Sharpie on the actor's face, so we like him.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't really have much other comments besides what's in the notes. Anything else to say about this?
We could do notes, and then I do have things to say, just overarching.
About the season and the acting. And
stuff.
Yeah. Well, you said if this were 2005, there'd be real sand. My other note here is the Acolyte, because I think this show, and this is part of the ugliness that we saw, looks like every other bland, boring Disney-produced show now, like the Star Wars shows or the Marvel shows. It's all this like flat, colorless, boring, reproduced. And even non-Disney shows look like this. I feel like this is how The Boys fucking looks, stylistically. Mm-hmm. But they have a little more intrigue, maybe. Yeah. But it is just so fucking boring and ugly to look at.
Very one note.
Yeah. And there's the one scene where he's getting the spoon that literally feels like you're watching Obi-Wan or something.
Yep.
Anyways, this is a 2 out of 10 for me. This fucking sucks.
Yeah, I don't even know if it surpasses its predecessor, the previous episode.
I just like it because there's no unit in it. That's what
there is
pushed it
a
up for
little
me.
bit of unit, but not as much. Yeah, just at the end, really.
Well, let's build up small in our critique here. Let's start with, we have a new actor playing the Doctor.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Ncuti Gatwa here?
I think he has acting chops. I think he has the ability to create good performances, but he's not working with a lot here.
Yeah.
And something we noticed throughout the episode, maybe with the exception of the Dr. Light episode, and even then, maybe he did anyways, he cries in every single episode. And he is very good at
sometimes
crying.
Multiple times.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sometimes more than once. He's very good at crying. He's able to just turn it on.
Yeah.
And he's good at it. And I'm struggling to know if, because he's good at it, if the studio or director told him to lean into that and get it, and wanted to get a tear out on their episodes, and it ended up being every single one, or if he knows in him that he has that ability and he put it in there,
right,
despite not being explicitly directed to, and they just allowed it.
Yeah.
I guess it doesn't really matter.
Right.
It's essentially the same at the end of the day, because if they didn't want him to, they would tell him not to, and it wouldn't have been in there.
Right.
So ultimately, it is the directing, the studio, that allowed it to happen. Maybe did explicitly tell him to. And therefore, I think it's not the Doctor. It doesn't give off that energy as much. Of course, he still does the quirky bit.
Yeah.
Maybe even a bit more this time than some of the others.
Less quirky than Jodie Whittaker.
Think so? Yeah. Well, she is more like the sort of vapid quirky.
Yeah.
Whereas he's a little bit more of the just Doctor quirky.
Yeah.
If you want to make any sort of distinction there, but so I think that fact that he's literally crying every single episode absolutely lessens the impact of any sort of emotion the Doctor is meant to be expressing or feeling in any moments of hardship. Because if you have an actor that has that ability to do so well at portraying such a strong emotional response in such a convincing and immediate way, why not save it for something more impactful?
Or when the whole universe dies.
Is constantly facing death. He is constantly running into tragedy or creating tragedy
often,
and we don't see him. We see him lash out quite a bit. We've seen him cry a handful of times. You could probably count it on one, maybe 1.5 hands.
I think honestly one.
The amount of times he's cried, and it's always felt a bit. It's always felt justified.
Yeah.
So it does not feel very justified here. It wouldn't really feel justified at the end just because of our disdain for it, but at least it would have made sense from a directing standpoint, from a standpoint.
You've lost essentially.
This is our big thing. He has to cry. This is the bigger emotional responsibility. And you do sort of get a variant of that where he's screaming more. But I mean, he screamed a little.
He's a good screamer.
Yeah. So that's as far as like the actual tangible visual, what you're seeing, my analysis of his acting. As far as the casting itself, I wouldn't cast him because of other more highly political reasons that I probably shouldn't even get into. So I'll leave it at that. He's being misdirected.
Yeah.
He's being a tool, essentially.
Right.
A misused one. So.
And the way I see it is interesting. because, like you said, he clearly has acting ability. You feel it when he screams. You can get the tear out. Like he has chops for acting, and so it would make sense that he would at least be considered for a role. But the way I see it is, it's kind of two things that have created this madness. The first thing is the way the show is moved. And we talked about this, I think, a little bit in the specials, but we're in Disney Who. We're in the reboot. This is Doctor Who season 1, season 0. I forgot what they called it. Like I think
it's just called season 1.
Restarting. Yeah. We're doing a new thing. We're doing a new Doctor. And what Davies, I think, has even said, but is clearly showing through the production, is after Chibnall, after the trauma that Chibnall inflicted on the Doctor and all the trauma the Doctor has faced in the past, plus this meta side of it, the reboot of the show, the move to Disney, the move to a younger audience, that the Doctor's character is becoming softer, and they want a Doctor who's more.
I'm seeing him cry, so I'm supposed to feel emotional at this poorly executed shit.
They want a Doctor who's more approachable, who's more friendly, who doesn't carry that weight and that edge and that trauma that we've talked about in the past, like when we talked about Jodie Whittaker, how all the Doctors previous have had that gravitas when they needed it, have been able to pull that history out and show that, like, it's all about quirky. It's not all about fun. Like, this takes a lot out of you. And even in your Matt Smith era, when everyone thinks you're, the 4chan, hot, quirky, you still have that weight behind you. And sometimes it'll come out in rage or in.
Did you mean Tumblr?
I did, yeah. Thank you.
Keep going, sorry.
Yes, thank you. I was trying to. I went through like 5 different apps in my head, and that's what I landed on. But because we're trying to push to this new, softer Doctor who has maybe like overcome trauma after Jodie Whittaker and The Timeless Child and everything, and has accepted his identity or her identity or whatever as this alien god thing.
Yeah, this transcendent.
That trauma has been left behind, and he's able to move on. And so I think that's one reason it doesn't feel like the Doctor, and probably the reason he cries every episode and is portrayed in this way.
We're literally not joking. He cries every single episode.
The second reason is, I think, the casting. And what I think about this is, like we've said, Ncuti Gatwa is clearly someone who has acting chops, acting prowess. However, I don't believe, based on what we've seen, and this is possible to change, I suppose, based on what he's seen, his acting chops mismatch what you need for the Doctor. Because there are different realms of acting, right? You have the dramatic, can cry, can put in this performance, and still be fun and bubbly, which is what he is, and that works for a lot of projects. But the Doctor is such this specific role where, and again, this goes back to the show changing, but you need that weight, you need that history, and you need to feel empathetic towards everything and indifferent, because that's how the Doctor has to operate if he's going to go on these adventures, and he's going to see these things, and he's going to watch these people die, and he's going to be this timeless, observant God. You have to care for people, yeah, and you have to be able to feel for them when they lose, but you have to maintain that distance, and it's not just about the fun and the bubbly and the laughy.
We did have very similar things to say about Jodie Whittaker as well. That we saw, a glimpse of good performances there as well.
I think her last 3 episodes, we got glimpses of what her Doctor could be.
Yes,
if it was written differently.
And we, I think, admitted that it was beyond her control.
Yeah.
That the showrunners really are the ones at fault here for mismanaging the character and the story.
Mismanaging and probably miscasting, because I think Jodie Whittaker is in that same realm where she clearly has, we've seen, acting chops, but they're missuited to this role. You should have cast someone else. Go on! So I guess that brings us to the show overall and our impressions of Davies coming back, where we are, the Disney Who, which a lot of it we've touched on already. I'll let you go first. I think one final thought on it.
Do I?
I don't know. I have one.
Really, I think all I had left in me was just the commentary on the casting of the role itself. I mean, yeah, it's very clear that it's been sanitized. For this new
these space babies,
this new capitalist overlord domain that it's entered, which is quite sad because it did used to feel it carried the jank along with it because of this fact, but it felt a lot sort of almost like home movies, at least especially in the first season.
That overexposed every shot,
and then moving forward, just like a smaller studio production. I mean, it didn't nearly die, didn't it nearly get canceled. Like, I mean, even beyond the inception of New Who, it didn't.
It was
struggles.
It was pretty consistent.
Okay.
Yeah. It struggled in the first season, I think, and then after that, it was pretty uphill.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just evident when comparing it to those that old style, that old low budget, poor effects. Yet again, as we talked about, I think at the end of the previous podcast, there was more with less.
Yeah.
You could feel the effort and the love from everyone involved in the projects, and now it feels just like a conglomerate.
What board led production?
I'll pass it on to you because I'm sure you can elaborate on this even more eloquently than I.
Well, no, you're absolutely right, and that kind of ties into the last thing I want to talk about, which is how it has in its transition to this more, I don't even know if mainstream's the right word, but this different audience, different target audience, and this dumbed down transition that it's taken in its thematics and its presentation and everything, because it's being marketed now to a new audience, to a younger audience, being marketed through the label of Disney. So Disney certainly has studio notes to give BBC and to give Russell T Davies on, hey, this is the Disney brand, and we need to maintain certain things. It can't be scary. It can't be too this. It's got to be whimsical, whatever. Because Disney has those certain requirements, even if it is just the distributor. As far as I'm aware, it's Disney has the power to give fucking studio notes, even as a distributor. But what this has brought us to is the betrayal of the premise of Doctor Who, and here's what it is, right? Doctor Who incepted in the 60s, and every time since then has been about the liberal ideal. And what I mean this in like the classical theory sense, right? In the ideal of belief in enlightenment and belief in the truths of the world and in science and in the.
And I would say that's inherent to the British spirit.
In a lot of ways, because it is kind of like the empiricism of someone like Hume, who was Scottish, but whatever. The empiricism of that era that birthed a lot of British philosophy, that birthed people like Carlyle, who tries to look at this kind of scientific way. And
it might seem counterintuitive, but I believe that was still the spirit of the British Empire, along with capital gains. But
of course, and those are intrinsically tied.
In the pursuit, along with its expansion, was truth and science and innovation as well.
Yeah, and the idea of Doctor Who is that kind of liberalism. It is this belief in science, and it is this belief in nature, discovery, and in the idea of things you don't understand now, things that seem supernatural are really supranatural. They are ununderstood pieces of natura, of the nature itself, right? Yeah. And that has been the drive of Doctor Who, because Doctor Who, legacy-wise, inherited old science fiction. And the drive of old science fiction is that liberalism, is that exploration, and that idea of the superiority of science and physics to explain the world. To use like Wittgenstein, it's the way that the language game of science hierarchically supersedes the other language games, right? And that's been the central tenet of Doctor Who the entirety of the show.
And now it feels as if it's been subverted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, because of that transition, suddenly there are things we can't explain. The supernatural is traded for the supernatural. We have these cosmic god entities, which, however you care about this perspective to religion or even to spirituality, whatever you want to call it, Doctor Who has taken in the past. The fact is, it has subverted that. It's never been like, oh, these gods are just advanced technology, are just advanced aliens. Now we have people like the Toymaker, like Maestro, like Sutek, who have been replaced. Sure, they showed up in the original, but they were this alien race. They weren't these gods. Now they are literalized as the gods. And we have that
along
in
with the Doctor. Then
exactly, yeah, and that's what Chibnall did, of course. But then we have all these other things too, like the fairy circle is not only a superstition, but it's real. The salt, at the end of the universe is not only a superstition, it's real. Which that one I can forgive more because it was kind of interesting.
They overcame it because they realized he was just doing it as a bluff.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But he did at the end of the universe, so it's like, yeah, I get that. Fine, that's fine, whatever. What else did we see in this season? That was
death,
magic.
Death,
the goblins.
Life.
Fuck. The goblins
episode.
just use magic. Like they use magic wires to do things, and that's how it's explained. It's like it just is magic. Obviously, the fairy circle is magic. His gloves came back. I didn't mention that. His gloves came back in the finale.
To drag
Sutek, suck dick. So now you have this show that has lost its identity because it has traded in its core for the gain of a new audience and for the gain of appeasement and capital, essentially, which is interesting. That
it just feels cheap because it's a lot easier to come up with something you don't have to explain versus something that does need to have some kind of basis in potential reality, some sort of it follows some sort of natural law. Whereas this, it's like you can just make a end of episode dance number for no reason.
Yeah.
You can look into the camera and say whatever you want. I feel that's probably a lot easier to write.
Certainly.
Yeah, it's probably a lot. You don't have to be as clever to get something substantial out of that. You can just go. And I forgot where I was going. Therefore it also, as a consequence of that, feels like just cheap, like childish entertainment.
Yes.
It feels like cheap, like more cartoonish.
Yeah.
It feels completely devoid of like maturity. Yeah, that's what I have.
And that's very likely as to why the feel of the entire season has felt like this shift from thematic weight in the past to brain dead entertainment. Is because we have lost that caring in the writers. They don't care because they have the easy solution. It's a magic world.
Probably getting paid more too.
Probably, yeah.
Disney money.
Yeah, true.
So they're not getting paid to care. There's no. I mean, once you've reached Disney bucks, why do you even need to like try harder?
Yeah.
To get noticed. You've made it.
I guess the last thing we should talk about is it seems like she's leaving after this season. Ruby. What do we think about Ruby?
We talked about that.
Yeah.
During our finale. Who cares?
Actually, though.
She was. If she's truly leaving, she was. There wasn't a lot there. Her whole arc, for the not knowing her true mother, why she was abandoned, seemingly almost like at first a mislead that there's some sort of cosmic
but
element
seems like
to
there
it.
Still is.
Not really.
What's with the fucking snow then? What?
Because the doctor thought it was cosmic, therefore it is.
Okay.
Because he's superstitious now, and
All right.
that spells anything goes,
Okay.
apparently.
All right.
And then, because he literally makes the point, it's like, I get what you're saying,
Right.
but it came from the horse's mouth. The doctor at the end is like,
Says she's
does
ordinary.
the
Yeah.
stupid platitude. That's the other one I forgot to
The
include.
most
was that
important person
most,
was
like,
the most ordinary.
mysterious,
Yeah.
important person in the world that seemed to like have so much this cosmic mystery around her because they couldn't figure out who she was the most ordinary ever. And they used that mystery to drive Sutek to their trap anyway.
Yeah.
So it was, I think that made it boring. I think that made it certainly fucking boring. It was kind of cool that Amelia, at least like her mother, was like conceived in the TARDIS.
Yeah.
And was also, her mother, her
Daughter.
right.
Yeah.
And then I don't like calling her because the doctor's kind of like their dad.
Yeah, kind of.
And then he's kind of like married to her.
Yeah.
Anyway, I got like really mixed up there. Anyway, that creates like a more interesting dynamic to it.
Absolutely.
Whereas here, it's just, again, it was just a punchline to some bullshit, like, fucking political phrase.
Right.
Like, and I mean, like, truly, like, political campaign.
Right. Like,
Like,
you're campaigning.
even the ordinary can do the extraordinary,
populism,
whatever. So it was boring. She was fine. I mean, her performance was okay. Again, she wasn't given a lot.
Yeah.
To work with. She did okay in her Dr. Light episode, where, I think she probably, got the most moments to shine. There just didn't seem to be anything at the end of like her arc other than just like, I love
Family.
I love
Yeah.
my family. I love my family.
At the end of the
I
day,
love my
it's about
family.
family.
It's universalist. I love my family. That's where Tennant ends up. He loves his adopt families.
Yeah, that is for Tennant.
When I like exclusivity, I like gatekeeping. I like things that are I like the niche. I think when things cannot be when they are marketed to be the universal, the inclusive, and you've got a huge company's brand and reputation on the line behind those stories and that media, you lose something because
Absolutely,
you can't do anything remotely that might not even be that transgressive, but as anything that sort of starts to maybe lean in that direction has to immediately be cut down.
Right, look at Boom. There's your example, yeah.
So, that's what I have to say about it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think her performance was pretty decent for the material she had. She was never really grating, like perfectly fine in every scene.
That's true. I think some of the Chibnall companions were annoying. Graham was kind of annoying.
Graham was annoying. Ryan was like cardboard fucking cutout. Yeah. Dan was good. So was Yaz.
Dan was fine. Yaz was. I thought she was a little annoying sometimes, but like
she could be,
like a passive kind of like woman like kind of way. Anyways.
But yeah, no, the arc is bizarre because you know me. I said it in the episode. I hate this. Companion's the most important person in the universe bullshit that we always fucking see. But I don't think this is the way to subvert it. To build up this mystery, and not only mystery, to literally tell us she is the most important person in the fucking universe. Like, the god of death is looking for her mom. Every time you talk about her mom, it snows and fucking Carol of the Bells plays. Like, this is not an ordinary fucking person. Clearly not. And then to just be like, oh no, she's just like someone who lives in Manchester. Imagine that! Wow! Like, wow! That is stupid. That is really fucking stupid. But who cares? Whatever.
We need our own season with our own Victorian orphan mystery.
Piano
where she needs
play.
to control the piano console of the alien spaceship blindfolded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the doctor's hands are cut
And there's
off.
green lights everywhere on the spaceship, and
And the evil Ood is there, and he's possessed by the void.
He's the TARDIS butler.
I think we've explained this already. Yeah, honestly, that's probably the end of what there is to even dissect out of this just this nothingness. Nothing. I'll just give my ranking. You can see if you agree or not. The best is definitely 73 yards. I guess I'll include the specials in here just to talk about them again. So 73 yards, Giggle, Wild Blue Yonder, 73. Dot and Bubble, Devil's Cord, Rogue, The Church on Ruby Road, Boom, Star Beast, Empire of Death, and then Space Babies and The Legend of Ruby Sunday. Ugh. Oh my god.
What's the average?
Yeah. The average came out to a 3 out of 10.
Isn't that higher than one of your others?
That is. It's higher than, it's tied with,
What if you took out the specials?
that's not including the specials.
Oh, the average. Okay.
Yeah, it's actually higher with the specials. So, which is tied with 11, tied with 11 and higher than 12, I think. I'm going to give this a 2 out of 10, though, in terms of my rating. This season fucking blows.
It's really bad.
It's really fucking bad.
Like the only one I would even consider rewatching would be like 73 yards.
Absolutely. I think it is more technically watchable than Jodie Whittaker's first 2 seasons, 11 and 12.
I think you might be right. I've
But
sort of blocked them out of my mind.
I wouldn't want to rewatch it. I gave the last Chibnall season a 5 out of 10. Like, I would genuinely rewatch that. Not happily, but I would.
Yeah.
This, I don't want to ever fucking see again in my life. I'm going to take my fucking eyes out with a spoon to look at this shit again.
Yep.
So that's where we're at.
Practically, virtually no redeemable factors.
Yeah. I
Virtually
agree.
none. Not the performance, not the writing, the themes, the ideas.
Not even the Murray Gold tracks.
Yeah.
Like, they're just kind of like shadows of what he used to do.
Yeah. That's one of the.
That's the saddest
That's
thing.
probably one of the greatest tragedies, really. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if he's just like
Probably phoning it in. 'cause he
Yeah,
got
exactly.
Disney bucks.
Phoned
Yeah.
it in because Disney bucks and the season sucks and he probably knows it. So he's like doesn't fucking care. He's not in like one room.
Or
using one. He's probably using actual instruments now, which are boring. He's not using the one
The
fucking
DAW,
software. Yeah.
I think what has happened is Davies and Moffat and Murray Gold are dead, and they pulled out the AI robots to
The Disney
produce
Borg
the-
AI
yeah.
produced.
But yeah, that's that. Season blows. I'm not hopeful for Doctor Who in the future if this is the new trajectory that new Disney Who is taking. I'm not looking forward to the Whoverse to watch the Unit show, and it's just going to be a shittier Torchwood. Yeah. I'm gonna shooty my brains out. Shooty Gatwa my brains out.
Yacht.
God.